So here's the video you guys all have been waiting for. My new 2024 Mustang Dark Horse. Why should you buy a Dark Horse over a regular GT? I'm going to tell you exactly why. Right off the bat is looks. We can probably all unanimously agree that the Dark Horse looks better than the regular Mustang GT, even with like a performance pack and whatnot. Now this is the quote-unquote base Dark Horse. It just comes in two types of trims. You've got the, well, base, right? Even though it comes with a whole bunch of stuff. And then you have the handling pack. Handling pack is the extra that you can put on this. I think it's even more stiffer suspension, lighter weight, sway bars and stuff like that. But this is just the base. But overall, looks is definitely a key thing on this car, in my opinion. Yeah, you could probably put an aftermarket front, you know, bumper Dark Horse, but come on, guys. The GT 350 stuff I get and whatnot, but right out of the gates putting on a new GT when these cars just came out looks a little ridiculous. And I will have to say that these factory wheels, I always sell all my factory wheels. These are some of the best factory wheels I have ever seen on a car ever. At least American domestic, that is. These are really, really nice factory wheels. They have like this dark, I don't know, dark grayish look to it. It's kind of like a dark gunmetal. And my car came with black Brembos, which is pretty common, but I do like the black. It kind of stealths it out a little bit. But overall, looks for sure on this car is a key factor and one of the reasons why you should consider buying a Dark Horse. Number two would be interior. Let's actually go ahead and sit in here. Now this isn't everyone's preference, but I like the two screens. Let's go ahead and turn it on. I actually really like the two screens. There's the Dark Horse there. It looks awesome in my opinion, and one of the cool things is it's pretty standard now in a lot of new cars, but automatically hooking up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, that's phenomenal. All right, that is just, for someone who hasn't really had a vehicle like that, that's really cool. So we'll go ahead and hit the Mustang button here, and this is by far the coolest thing about these cars. Is the cluster theme. Now of course this comes with the GT as well, but I'm just going to kind of reiterate and go over these. There's normal, there's sport, there's track, there's calm, Fox body, and the new classic 6768. So super cool, good reason to buy a GT in general, but with the Dark Horse you get standard, the premium look of the gauge cluster and the infotainment together. This also comes with the B&O premium sound system. The interior, it's going to be really hard to see with the lighting and whatnot being in this parking deck, but there's a lot of blue accents and whatnot. The nice plaque, mine's a 4244 build. The interior, there's not much chrome, and I'm not a chrome guy, so I absolutely love that. Overall, it's a really nice interior to sit in my opinion. Again, I get it if you don't like the screens. I'm a tech guy, I love technology, so the screens is really cool to me. And how I have this set up, if you didn't see already, is when I start the car, so let's go ahead and do that. I will do a exhaust clip here in a second, and we go to Android Auto. It shows the trip, so I can have everything going for me, the music here, my GPS, and just my trip overall, how many miles to empty, what my miles per gallon is. You can swipe through these as well, fuel economy. That's where you can actually put the audio too. There's even a navigation spot here because this car comes with nav. But the interior overall is definitely a plus in my opinion. The steering wheel is really nice, so that is definitely one of the good reasons in my opinion to get a Dark Horse over a regular GT or some other vehicle. And these seats, I will say, are super comfortable. Oh, you guys know I wasn't gonna gloss over this. Perhaps the #1 reason to buy a Mustang Dark Horse over the regular GT is the Dark horse engine. Now, of course, you get an extra, what is it, 14 horsepower, 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated. Definitely really, really cool. But here's the kicker, and here's something that people just aren't talking about. Either they're misinformed or they just do not know. This engine comes with a lot of forged goodies as opposed to the regular GT, because when people buy GTs, they boost them, which we'll get to that in a second. But this has GT 500 forged connecting rods. It's got better camshafts. It's got a more balanced crank, whatever that means. And it's got better rod bearings. So basically, in layman's terms, this will accept boost just as well as a GT, but be more reliable. It might actually, because no one's really tested the limits yet, because full tuning isn't out, but this might handle, and it should, based off the forged components, handle more power and more boost reliably than a regular GT. Now, the regular GT does have some different things inside the engine as well, but those are the key components to the Dark Horse engine that makes it really special. And you're probably going to start to see why this car costs so much more than a regular GT. Those forged components, those better built components cost money, and that's where a lot of the money comes from, is a better engine with better internals. So that's actually my #1 reason why I bought this car, was the internals. I'm gonna boost it. I'm probably gonna throw a Whipple on it. Whipples are making anywhere from like 730 to all the way up to 800 wheel horsepower on these cars with long tube headers. The Whipple from Whipple superchargers with the stage 2. So the sky's the limit right now on the Whipple for that, as far as that goes. Of course, you gotta add octane booster to the stage 2, yada yada. You guys are probably already aware of that, but you can get a Whipple with a warranty as well. So that's a huge thing, and a reason why I think if you go the Dark Horse, you're not gonna have to worry about engine problems necessarily if you certainly push the limits on these vehicles once tuning comes out. Because you add E85 and there's another 80 to 100 rear wheel horsepower with a, probably would need a fuel system, right? But just with the E85 switch already, without even pulling down. So massive potential for these cars, as all Mustangs have, but the Dark Horse will have more potential. All right, the next thing actually has to do with the brakes and overall the capabilities of this car. Even though this isn't a track package Mustang Dark Horse, it is better than the GT350 with the track package, of course. The Dark Horse is better than GT350 around a track. And even though I don't have the track package, the handling package, it still handles probably just as well, if not better, than my 2017 Camaro ZL1 that I had. And fun fact, these brakes on this car, this is the #1 best stopping production car on the planet. On the planet. That's better than the GT2 RS, that's better than Lambos, you name it. On the planet, this is the #1 best braking car on the planet. That's crazy to me. That's not something, I don't ever like to brag about any of the vehicles whatsoever, but when I found that out, that was insane. And I'll link the article in the description down below, or even that YouTube video that popped up, Engineering Explained, if you know who that is. But that is just absolutely wild. And it's pretty wild that, yeah, new technology and stuff, but it's wild that this beats a GT350 around the racetrack as well. As it should, though. New technology and whatnot, better suspension, all that nonsense. But yeah, this car's capability is absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and get an exhaust clip for you guys. Now, it does have an H-pipe, so it sounds a little bit better. Go ahead and try to do the remote rev feature. It does have to warm up just a little bit. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and give it one. And we give it one more. Not bad for a factory exhaust and just an H-pipe, guys. The factory exhaust sounds amazing even without the H-pipe. I need a little bit more sound, a little bit more grumble, and just an H-pipe definitely does the trick. There'll be more videos on that for comparison on the channel very soon. Leaving the parking deck, So what does that leave us with? The price. This is probably the most glaring issue, but I'm gonna hark back to what I said earlier in the video. With all those engine upgrades, with all the handling upgrades, this thing handles like a beast. The interior, like what comes stock standard for these cars, which are options for the GT, because you could heavily option a GT up to like 60K. You gotta keep all that into consideration when you think about the price of these cars. I paid for this car, I think it was $63,500. That was MSRP. You can get these cars at MSRP now. Do not pay over MSRP. And with the handling pack and whatnot, they can go up to about 72K. Now, if you're an actual, like, you know, go to the track all the time, then that makes sense. But again, I will always go back to, in being a fast car enthusiast, I always like to make my cars fast. Boosting this and the reliability out of the motor with those goodies, those forged goodies, I think is worth the money to me, honestly. It's just the way the car looks, the way it handles, the way it drives. The exhaust sounds different than the GT. There's so many things that are different on this car than the GT, which I think justifies the price. Now, when these are used a couple years down the line, these are probably going to be the road monsters that regular GTs have been, like the S550s. But when these get anywhere between 50 to 55K with lightly used miles, let's say 10K miles, these are going to dominate the streets. So picking one up now is not a bad call. You get the warranties and whatnot. You can get a Whipple with a warranty, which is just wild to me. It is not a bad decision in my opinion, and you can just sit back and relax and wait for tuning to come out too. That's another thing. While you're enjoying your car, doing window tint, which is something I need to do an H-pipe, some other minor things that you would already do to the car anyway. So it makes sense to me, in my opinion, to go ahead and actually do that. So with that being said, I think if you're in the market for one of these cars, definitely do it. It is worth every penny. I need to get the parking deck thing out of the way here. So if you enjoyed this video, or if you learned something new, smash that like button, comment in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Dark Horse? Do you think it's going to be a monster on the streets, especially once tuning comes out? And overall, let me know what you guys think about the car. I'm in love with it so far, even though it's slow. I'm used to high 4s, low 5s, 60, 130 in my previous Mustang, but it is a really nice setup and I do like it. That's it with me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.